have this save that is being called by our widget, is passing us the brand new widget with the new title, new everything, new size. We need to pass this to the server so that it can be put and updated, right? But we don't have that, right? We don't have that on the server, right? So if we try to call it, it's gonna fail. So let's implement that on the server. So let's go head over to the server, right? And our controller is gonna have to receive here a put, right? That's another convention in RESTful services, right? If you are creating, you use a post. If you are reading, you use gets. If you are deleting, you use deletes. If you're updating, you use puts. Right? Again, that's part of the convention. And so I'm just going to copy this. Oops. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to map this to a put. You're going to tell me the widget that you're updating, right? And this is going to be an update widget. So update widget. You're going to pass me the ID. There it is. And you're going to pass me also the new widget, which is in the body. Yes, so I'm going to have to parse the request body, and which is going to try to instantiate a widget instance, and it's going to pass me a new widget, right, or updated widget. Yes. It'll try to convert it into whatever you whatever class you give it, right? So whatever fields match, it'll try to convert those. And also it might throw exceptions if it comes in as a string and it tries to convert into an integer, it'll fail. You give an exception. So yes, it'll try, right? It'll get an exception if it fails. So once you have the updated widget and the ID, we're going to, again, we as a controller, that's not our responsibility. We're going to delegate it to our service. We're going to pass the widget ID and the new updated widget. Okay, let's implement that on the service. So on the service, I'm going to do just brute force. I'm just going to iterate over the widgets. I'm going to say, for int I starting from 0 to I less than widget list dot size I plus plus. If you know how to use the new stream API, do it that way. I'm going to check to see the ID, and I'm going to update it, right? So I'm going to say, if the widget list dot get at the index I, and I'm going to get the ID. If that it's equal to the widget ID that you passed, what we're going to do is that I'm going to replace that instance with the new updated widget. Yes, if that's true, if I found the widget that I'm updating, I'm going to replace it. So widget list dot set at index I, and I'm going to put the updated widget there. Okay, and probably the updated should also just return an int. So if I didn't find it, I'm just going to return a 0. Instead, if I did find it, I'm going to return a 1. Yes? Okay. So the controller should return whatever the updated widget is. It's returning an int, so I'm going to make sure to return an int. Oops, like that. Make sense? All right. So let's try this out. Let's restart the server. So on the server, let's implement this update. On the server, let's see. We'll implement it right here in the dispatcher. Right, so here's our the updated widget is going to pass us what? It's passing us the ID and the widget. So the ID, so widget ID, and it's passing us the widget, right? And so this is going to do what? It's going to do a fetch, very much like this fetch right here. So I'm just going to copy this to widget ID, and the method is going to be a put, right? The body will be the stringify of this brand new widget. I'm going to put that in the body, and in the headers is going to be the content type, just like in the post. Content type will be application/JSON. Right, that's going to come back, is going to come back with a status, and we're going to do an update widget here. So this is going to be update widget. That's the ID. And I'm going to pass you the actual widget, the new widget. Okay, so that in the reducer, we can just do the update, right? So case, what was it? Update widget. We're going to return. What we're going to do is that we're going to rebuild this. Return new widgets. Basically, I'm gonna rebuild the array, looking for that widget, right? If it's the widget I'm updating, I'm gonna return that widget. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep the old widgets. Yes, all right. So I'm gonna say grab the old widgets from the state, iterate over them, rebuild them. So here's all the old widgets, right? So I'm gonna check to see if the old widget ID matches the new widget ID, right? If it is, I want the new I want the new widget. Otherwise, I want the old widget. Yes, right? I'm just rebuilding that array. Okay. All right. So let's see if this blows up. Let's see. Did we restart the server? I forget. We did. Okay. All right. So if we go and WC here, and I change this to be 1111, and we say okay. Let's refresh. It worked, right? So it went out to the server changed it, and it came back. It didn't work. Let's refresh. That's there. It's there. And and perhaps the heading, see if the size also changes. So maybe heading 6, and we say okay. It's small. Okay. What we might want to do is to swap the widget so that we stop editing, right? And we can re-render it with the new value. Okay. Right. So for instance, what we could do is that in the widget list, once we click the save, where's our save? Our save here, instead of just updating the widget, what we could do, right, is to cause the state, the editing widget, right, the editing widget to be this new widget, right? We can say this like this, right? We can say like that, and we can do a this dot set state, right? Here's the previous state. Here's the previous state, and what we could do is this widget now have the new values of the widget that is being passed to us here, right? So we can say widget, right? Widget is going to be equal to this new widget that is being passed to us over here. And then returns this, right? Return. Wait a minute. I guess we might want to do return. There we go. Okay. Let's see if this works. Let's see. If we edit this, right, and change this to 222 and say okay. Notice that it changed here. So if I leave, right, notice that it did change, right? Or if I go back and change it to H1 and say okay, right, I can go back and right, and it updates. Yes. What we could do as well. Actually, no, we don't need to. We don't need to this doesn't have to go in there. What you might want to do as well is that instead of just using one variable to keep track of whether you're editing or not, right, you might have two variables. Right? One as a selected widget, and the other one is whether you're editing the widget. Right? You might want to be the distinction so that, for instance, after you save, maybe you want to clear the widget that you're editing, right? So that this goes back to the preview. Okay, all right. What else?